Hello, hello. Welcome to the place for offbeat health professionals who have bravely swapped their healthcare hats for non-clinical creative caps. I'm Caitlin, a psychologist turned copywriter, and this is Healers with Hustles. Anna Olivia is a passionate enthusiast, psychologist, and podcaster working individually with adults and adolescents based in the rural coastal town of Leeman, WA. Through her humility, humor, and compassion and lived experience of childhood trauma and mental illness, she provides deep insight and empathy in connecting with clients and empowering them to reach their goals. Anna's favorite motto is, "You can change your life." Well, welcome to the podcast, Anna. I'm so excited that you're here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I'm keen to pick your brain because I've got my notepad here as well, because I'll probably take notes about like all your advice and wisdom from your podcast for sure.
Oh, thank you. Sure, go for it.
Before we do that, why don't we start at the beginning and tell me a little bit about your psychology journey and like maybe even why you started a podcast and all about that.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Anna Oliver. It's like you're trying to think back of when, you started uni and all that stuff years ago. Yeah, I went straight to uni after school, sort of knew I wanted to be a psychologist from when I was like in my mid-teens, smashed out the 4 years. And then because my priority was partying and drinking as you do at uni, I didn't try as hard as I probably should have. So in terms of like getting into masters, that was going to be tricky. But after 4 years, I was like, I need a break. I'll just go and work in the industry and just do some travel and stuff like that. And then, met a lovely girlfriend that sort of told me about the 4+2 program, because I'd looked at it, but I sort of was like, that seems really far-fetched, when you read all the guidelines of what you need to achieve. And I thought, where are you going to find a job that could do that? So anyway, girlfriend sat with me and we did that application together, and she introduced me to my supervisor. So smashed that out within 2 years. But spent a few years working at like a youth centre as well as a high school. So that was, great introduction to like kids and adolescents and family work and talking to parents and, lack of school attendance and all that sort of thing. And then I got a job with Holyoke as a drug and alcohol counsellor. So that was a huge learning curve as well, all about addiction and trauma and the medical side of things. So another awesome opportunity. And then I got a job in a private practice in Fremantle. So I worked there for a little while, and by the end there I burnt out. So then I quit psychology for about, 2 years or something.
Oh, wow.
Moved up, had a sea change. Yeah, so I moved up north, so we're 3 hours out of Perth now. Had a bit of a sea change, just chilled out for a bit, and then started my own private practice, which has just been huge and awesome, just to be my own boss and call the shots and things like that. And then just towards the end of the year, it was like I just got this creative itch and I just had to scratch it. And I had all these, as I do, I have all ththese different ideas, and then it's like sitting there being like, okay, you got to actually pick one. And then it was like, okay, cool, podcast. I didn't even know where the idea came from, but it came to me, and I literally wrote my like ethos and like, not a business plan, but a plan of like my vision, my questions, how it was going to work. I literally wrote all that in like a morning. And then the next morning I just sat online, like Googling, how do you do a podcast for free? And then, within a week I was interviewing other psychologists, and it was just a bit of a creative venture, really.
I love how you, had like a little itch for something creative but then you went and did it. Like, are you quite a creative person? And that's something that you found was missing, or?
It's an interesting question. Like, because you sort of think creativity, you think like art or music. And so in that sense, no. But I would say that there was something missing. Like, working one-on-one with clients is amazing and awesome. But I suppose, there is this part of me that wanted to kind of step outside the box, have a bit of fun, I guess, do things in a bit of a different way. So I'd say maybe I am, because in certain things, like I'm that person that like if I host a dinner party, like the whole table is like decorated with like glassware and tablecloth. And I love cooking and making things pretty. So I think in some respect I am. So I think it's been really nice to tap into that in a work way as well.
Yeah, you're so right there. And I'm so curious about the question about like creativity and burnout and how that works. And I don't know if there is a relationship. I can't really find a lot of research on it, but how did you like when you were burnt out, how did you recover from that?
Yeah. So as we all need an income. Perfect world would be you'd quit and just chill out. I, just thought I'd get out of the industry completely. So I worked with my sister-in-law at her food company. So it was like completely different role, which, you still use your psych skills, right? So I think just having a break from that heavy responsibility of the one-on-one client work, I guess, yeah, not feeling that huge sense of responsibility or
Yeah.
that I had to fix people or had to, yeah, prove myself. So I worked there for a year and then we decided that we'd move up north. And where I am now, like, there's not many opportunities for work. So our sort of thing was, financially, we were in a position that it was sort of like, I'll just have some time off, I'll get pregnant right away, which never happens, which was good in the end. So I was very privileged and lucky that I actually did get a really decent amount of time off. And for me, I think that was your nervous system got to relax, you got
Yeah.
to really reconnect with yourself. I think sometimes the only way to tap into what you really want, whether that's creativity or with work, the only way you can do that is by slowing down. And like I said, it's not
Yeah.
always an option financially, but I'm sure I would have gotten there at some point anyway, even if I had been working, because I just would have been having a break from that full on psych type role. So for me, yeah, it was just lots of rest, rejuvenation, therapy, and just having some space, really.
Yeah, you're so right there, like the space to be able to think and like the nervous system to, yeah, calm down and rediscover who we are. I don't know what your journey, like psych journey was, but I felt like I kind of lost myself a little bit. Like my whole identity became psychologist and I almost, yeah, it really was a journey of going to therapy and then also clinical supervision. I realized that I was talking a lot about how I was in my clinical supervision, and that was like a really warning sign that okay, I don't think I'm that good.
Yes, yeah, definitely. And I think that's so understandable and fair enough. And to be honest, I would have been exactly the same. Like I would have been like just talking in supervision about how it's impacting me. You sort of sometimes don't realize it's not that you're becoming negative, but maybe you're becoming, I think I was getting a bit jaded, like
Yes.
just about the industry and all that sort of thing. And I agree. I think, especially if you're working for someone, depending on what their ethos is, or you are doing things to how they like. So I think you do lose yourself a bit, especially if it's maybe not aligning with how you would maybe run things.
Yeah, absolutely. There's
Yeah.
that disconnect. And for sure, that's something that's always struck me is that I've always felt like I wasn't a proper psychologist. Like I was always acting like a psychologist because like how the psychologists that we were like showed in like masters or like through training felt like it was so different to who I was, someone who's like highly unstructured. Like I just kind of go with the flow. I'm very
Yeah.
relational, like in my therapy. Like I even, yeah, I think I've said this before on another podcast, but I like joke that I've always struggled to like set an agenda and like all of these things. And it was such
Oh,
a
I'm the same. Yeah.
yeah, it was such a struggle. And then I took that personally, like all of a sudden that means like I'm not a proper psychologist. And like having that, I think in the back of my mind as well was really challenging and definitely contributed to the side burnout. But
Yeah, yeah, it's so true. It's sort of this one size fits all, or that's kind of what we get taught anyway. And then you sort of meet other sites or you see a site yourself and you're like, you're really cool and you just go with the flow. Like that's
yeah,
what I align with. Why am I feeling like it's got to be like go to the book?
exactly. And then we can kind of relax a little bit and find
Yeah.
that. But tell me about your podcast because it seems like it was such a passion thing and that you had all these ideas and then as soon as you put your like pen to paper, it just all came out. Tell me about that process.
Yeah, yeah. So my podcast is called Does My Psychologist Like Me? Spent a while trying to like come up with a name. And I was like, I feel like that's a name that really like, it's juicy, because I feel like
Yes.
anyone that's in therapy is always like, what does my therapist think of me? So yeah, look, I think it came out of, like this creative itch, the fact that I do work and live rurally. So I'm obviously not got co-workers. I've obviously got supervisor who I touch base with and, peer supervision, but it's not, I guess I was just feeling a bit disconnected not only from other sites, but just from the industry, I think, 'cause I'm just so far away. And I just sort of thought, I love talking psychology and I want to talk like real talk with psychologists, like I kind of envisioned it's this vibe of you're in the coffee room having a cuppa, or you're doing after work drinks over, a couple of glasses of wine, and you're just talking about the realities of your life and who you are and why we do what we do. And so that's kind of where it sort of stemmed from, was just we've all got stories, and given the role that we're in, of course, in the therapy room, it's not about us, it's about our client. But I just think we all have such wonderful stories to tell. So it's like, obviously we don't do that in the therapy room. So like, let's just create a platform where, it's very each to their own. People can be as, personal and vulnerable as they want, or, if they choose not to, that's totally okay as well. But yeah, it's just a mix of like the humaneness of psychologists, hearing their stories, as well as always learning something. So we always talk about their work or their passion, and I'm always learning things as well. So yeah, and it's just been so lovely to connect. It's really filled my cup in that sense.
Yeah, like particularly working rurally and being like the only psychologist. And I don't know what you think about this, but there's something about being a psychologist and it's a little bit different from other health professionals. Like I don't know. I don't exactly know what it is, but I don't know if it's like the stigma or something that's involved with psychologists, but yeah, even just because I live
Yeah.
rurally as well. And
Yeah.
there's just something I always feel a bit like going to like the local supermarket. I can feel like get really wound up about it. But
Yeah,
yeah, I
totally.
don't
Or
know what
going
it
to
is.
like, I'm like, do I go to the GP that gives me all my referrals? Like, I don't know how I feel about that. Or, yeah, and I think there's just confidential realm of it. Like, of course, you do supervision where you share, and peer supervision where you might, you share cases. But even then, it's very brief. Like, I don't feel like we ever sit down and be like, how's that client? So I do feel, because out of respect, and it's just such a sacred and special space. So I think we do hold a lot more than we realize. So maybe that's some of the difference compared to maybe a GP or a nurse or something. It's you kind
Yes.
of getting access to the most vulnerable parts of people. So
Yes.
yeah, I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, I think they're onto something there about it is such a sacred space and that like such a responsibility as well. Can be quite heavy. But it's also a beautiful thing. And
Yeah, yeah.
nice, yeah, to have those moments where people are sharing, something that's so personal and you might be the first person to hear or something like that. It's a
Yeah.
lovely thing. Yeah. But tell me about I wrote down this little thing. I really love your intro where you say about how this is on your podcast about how you're like, you thought psychologists had all their shit together, but then you
Yeah.
became one and you realized
How far that
that's
can
not
be from the truth. Which I'm now like, hopefully all the other sites I've interviewed don't think I'm talking about them. I'm like, I'm not talking about any of you. I'm talking about myself. Don't worry. I haven't interviewed anyone that I've been like, Jesus. Yeah, look, I think it's that when I was in high school, my parents were taking me to a psychologist probably when I was 14. And, probably total transference, but I really put her on a pedestal of like, her life must be amazing. She'd be such a good mum. I want her to adopt me. And she was just such a
oh,
pivotal role. Like, she was beautiful and she served that purpose that I needed. But yeah, I just had this idea that like, psychs just must have all their shit figured out, know exactly what to do, never get angry or upset. And yeah, it's just quite funny that we're just humans. Like we're literally the same as anybody else.
Yeah.
We all have the same sort of challenges. You know, we're all coming from, a lot of us are coming from childhood wounds or wounding along the way. And that's what brought us to that line of work. And that's what inspired us to want to heal and grow. And then, you know, to sort of pass that on to other people. Yes, I always love hearing people's journeys and stories.
Absolutely. I love that, like, showing the humanity of psychologists because we're humans and we're flawed like everyone, but that's, probably sometimes what makes us great clinicians in some
Yes. Yeah. And I
senses that
guess
we
that,
can.
and in, yeah. And but that's the thing, I guess we just don't talk about it a lot. I think it's becoming more open, you know, now with social media and lots of sites on there with good following and things like that. I think I think it's changing too. I think clients want to know more of that humaneness, whereas before it was like blank slate.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have even known the psych that you got referred to. You're just ringing them off this referral that you get from your GP. You're lucky if they had a web and you're just going in blind. Whereas, yeah, I think now clients have the opportunity to like do a little stalk on the website or have a look and go, oh, that face that, you know, I align with that person. So, yeah, I definitely think it's changing, that it's not so much stigma and shame for us if we are challenged. Because I just feel like in my 4+2 with my supervisor, who I saw her, you know, every week for 2 years,
Yeah.
I need to ask her like what she thought of me from like the beginning to the end, because I just feel like those first 6 months I would have been super guarded and was just like trying to hold it together and like everything's fine. And I think she was like, are you okay? You know, and you're like, no, and you're like crying. And she was, yeah, because it was just this idea that like, oh, you know, she's a professional and
Yeah.
can't show her that I'm, you know, having a rough time.
Yeah,
But yes, I think it's changing.
which, like, think how good is that? When you say it like that, it makes me feel more excited. What a time to be a psychologist and work as a psychologist
Yes.
in this time where we
Yeah.
can be a bit more, yeah, like bring our humanity into the session and not like we're talking about ourselves, being a little bit more us.
Yeah. Being authentic. Yeah.
Mm.
Feeling like you can be yourself. Cause yeah, I mean, even my supervisor, I remember saying, she was like, oh, you know, blank slate, dress very plain. Well, that's just how she chose to do things. And I think I did that a bit in the beginning as well. Like, oh, you can't dress too funky because then you'll look really young and people who are older. Whereas, yeah, it's just like, just wear what you want to wear, obviously professional, but, you know, just show up as you are. But I think you're right. I think it is an exciting time, especially because there's so many different ways to be creative and different income streams. And you just see all the cool stuff that other sites out there are doing. It's really exciting.
It is. And that's, yeah, so right about those different ways to work and diversify and, yeah, do different things. And that's actually something I'm curious to hear what you think about this. Like, I had someone comment recently that they're worried about starting a creative business or a creative outlet because they're worried about people thinking that they must be burnt out because they're starting not doing like one-on-one therapy work. And yeah, I don't know. What do you think
Interesting.
of that? Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting perspective, and it's one that I would not even have thought of. Like if I saw a psych doing something and they weren't doing one-on-one work, would not even enter my brain. Like what I would think is that's just awesome. Like that must be their passion, or they're just wanting to move away from that sort of individual intense work. And I think that's okay. And I think as it's changing as well, I think it seems to be a bit of a natural progression for like private practice. It's like it starts out, you see sort of clients, and then maybe you move to supervision and seeing clients, and then maybe you progress to being a practice owner. Like I think that's totally okay to, if you do want to transition out of that sort of clinical role, I think that's completely understandable as well
Yeah.
and
But
fine. But that's an interesting perspective, but not one I would have ever thought of.
I know. Same here. I didn't know, yeah, not surprised by it. Or maybe I was a bit surprised by it, but I thought, well, it must be potentially a common thought that some people have. And like why it's so important, like you to be doing your podcast and you're talking to people who are doing different things. And
Yeah. Yeah.
it's very exciting. It really is. And Tell me, well, yeah, something that I was really curious is to hear about what you've learned from interviewing so many different psychologists on your podcast.
I've learned so much that we are all the same, like we were saying before, that we're all human and got humility and compassion. And I think just the motivation and passion that you can feel through each interview in whichever niche or whichever line of work they do. I always learn, whether it's something about strategies or tools that they use or a certain type of therapeutic framework, like pretty much anything I'm curious about in the interview, I'll just be like, yeah, tell me more about that. Or
What?
so I'm just feel like I'm learning as much as I'd say the audience are. Yeah, it's maybe too just like how lucky we are. So I think it's just you can't help but leave the interviews feeling like on a high and really motivated and like inspired. So I think that's quite a beautiful thing that we're all on that sort of journey together and just such beautiful people out there. Yeah, and just such a wealth of knowledge, I think. And just, I think too, so many psychs out there willing to connect and willing to talk. And what's the word? Like that sort of psych gang mentality. It's not like anyone's being like, oh, you're doing that. That's similar to me. Everyone's very supportive and cheering each other on, I think, is what everyone's really supportive and wants the best for everyone and is willing to kind of help out in any way they can.
Well, that's great. It makes me so happy that it is that supportive environment. How was that like when you were doing your 4+2? Did you have a core kind of group, like friends or colleagues that were going through it that you could all like debrief with? And what did that look like?
No, no. And I think that was probably a huge, downfall for me. Like obviously the places I worked, I had co-workers, but they were counsellors or already psychs or teachers or whatever. So I didn't really have anyone that was in it with me, like in that moment. And in hindsight, I'm like, surely there would have been like Facebook groups or like apparently there was a Facebook group that would be about tips and tricks for the national exam. Didn't even know that. I did that whole study and all that stuff on my own. So that would have been hugely beneficial. I mean, now if I was doing it, it's a no-brainer. I'll just Google Facebook groups. But maybe back then, maybe it wasn't such a big thing. Yes. Yeah. So I definitely missed out on that that would have been hugely helpful to have had.
That unknown that is, because I think it's only been since I've been in business that I've realized how big Facebook groups are. Like I didn't really before that know that it was such a big thing, and they can be so helpful. And
there's always something on there. There's always someone asking something that you never thought of, or when you ask, people are so quick to give you supportive answers.
So generous with their knowledge and all of that. Absolutely. Going back to creativity, how is like having a podcast and having that creative outlet, like maybe that playfulness, how has that impacted your clinical work?
I think massively, more so than I would have anticipated. Because I just feel like I am more playful maybe in session, which I don't know, maybe just because I'm feeling more that sort side of things. My cups felt a bit full. I think it's given like a little boost of like more confidence. I think is you're not only getting awesome feedback from the person that you interviewed, like you just had this great interview, and then after you're like, oh, that was so great, and then you edit and then you release, and then they come back being like, oh, thanks so much, that was really awesome, and then obviously getting lovely feedback from listeners. So I guess it's helped me. Yeah, it's just made me kind of maybe I sort of know what I'm doing. So that's really nice, and just, connecting with lovely people. And I definitely think, and of course, like I said before, just learning lots of different things from psychs. So, that of course comes into my clinical role, sort of going, okay, yep, didn't think of that, or, that's a really fun or playful sort of activity or whatever. It's just sort of brought a bit more probably energy and zest back. Yeah.
What a good word, zest. I like that.
Zest, yeah.
Zest.
Yeah.
No, but that makes me so happy that is the thing, bringing up that space to play and create. And but you're so right. There is an element of sometimes, particularly working in a solo, if you work in a solo private practice, like your own, right? And so you don't have that feedback necessarily from people. Of course, your patients, but it's a bit different when it's like a supervisor or your colleague saying something. And so
Yeah.
having that little bit of feedback that you're doing something that's like meaningful or that kind of thing
Yeah.
can help.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you definitely have times, I mean, obviously you're new into it, but you might have moments where you're like, is there any point of me doing this? Is anybody listening? Like, and then you get feedback or whatever and you go, yeah, it is purposeful and meaningful. Yeah. Do you feel it has a sort of similar effect for you? Like so far, have you felt it's itching your creative side?
Definitely, yeah, no, absolutely. Like the writing, like my copywriting outlet has been amazing for my clinical work. My supervisor says that my confidence in my copywriting has like sponsored my confidence in my therapy work, which is quite an interesting thing, which I guess maybe makes sense with like self-efficacy or something. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's just allowed me to sit more and be more me. And it's
Yes.
just, yeah, I don't feel like I'm doing anything wildly different, but it's just like that confidence just to, sit there and feel like I can maybe be more present with my patients because I do have an outlet for
Yes. Yeah.
things potentially. Yeah, but we'll see about the podcast. Like I've had so much fun recording them at the moment. What have you learned from like a more like the nuts and bolts things like about have you had any mistakes or like muck ups and things like that recording?
It's been really smooth sailing, thankfully. Like most, yeah, we haven't had connection issues. Zoom's obviously a great platform. For a little while there, I was paying an editor because I was just like, can't be bothered. And he was a legend and he did a lot of few things for me. And then now I'm sort of doing it myself. Yeah, no, it's been pretty smooth in that sense. Like, obviously, I can do things better, like get a microphone and, you can upgrade your stuff. You have your moments where you think like, I'm not going to get it done in time. Like once I make a commitment, I'm committed. So in my head, I'm like, an episode has to come out by Monday morning each fortnight. So it's like, can't be a few hours late. Like that's what I've committed to.
That's what it is.
Yeah, yeah. So that's my deadline. So yeah, no, it's been pretty good. Like everyone's, I think I was really excited for one episode that was me interviewing my own psychologist. And
Oh wow.
I was like,
Oh my
so I did
gosh.
interview her and I know it was so good. It was like a dream come true.
What?
Yeah. And then, so we'd interviewed it all and then well, not unfortunately, it's good for her, but she just mentioned she got a new role or something and they were like, look, try not to have any social media type presence. So she just asked for it not to be released. And I was like, of course, yeah, anyone can revoke at any time. But I was like, damn, it's such a good episode.
Yeah.
That would be
Well,
the only thing. But
yeah.
otherwise everyone's been awesome.
That's so good to hear. But yeah, like interviewing your psychologist, did you get an answer to your question? Like, do they like
Yeah.
you or?
Yeah, I did. At the end, I was like, so she just laughed. She was like, I would hope that you could tell and feel in session that that's the case. I was like, yes, yes, definitely. But yeah, it was wild to have like her kind of on the opposite side of things.
Yeah. Did you feel that like a dynamic change?
Yeah, like I felt more nervous than probably I had with all the other ones. And we talked about it a lot, extensively,
Yeah.
because she was obviously very mindful of like, are you sure? Like this can have a dynamic shift. But I was sort of like, it's more about you. Like it's obviously not about us or our relationship. So yeah, it did feel a bit weird, but it was cool.
Yeah, good on you for doing that. It would have been, yeah, even it's a bit of a shame that it wouldn't get released, but even just that experience.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. I've actually asked, I don't know if I would feel comfy interviewing my psychologist, but I'm interviewing my clinical supervisor. So like at some stage.
Cool.
Yeah, which will be good.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk all about like my process and like how was grappling like the two businesses and all of that I think it might be helpful for some people to.
Definitely. That'll be awesome. That'll be really good to listen to.
Yeah, just to hear that it's not like a necessarily a smooth sailing thing and that there's a lot to consider and but coming out the
So
other
much
side and
to,
that's okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, so much to unpack.
exactly. Yeah, so I'm excited about that one.
Oh, I'm excited to listen to that one. Yeah, that'll
It'll
be
be good.
interesting.
And what have you got, like, coming up in your do you do anything, like, in your business apart from one-on-one work? Like, do you do workshops or group stuff or
No,
anything?
it's in, like, I'd like to. I was going to say it's in the works. It's not even in the works. It's just
Yeah, yeah.
manifesting up here, and I actually haven't done anything about it yet. But yeah, it's definitely something I would like to look at some point is, different income streams. Would love to, have little worksheets or whatever that think, on different things that people can sort of download, or, you pay a very small fee for something. Yeah, and look, there is a lot of scope, I guess, being rural in the sense of, you could offer like different businesses mental health training, or I could do things like day workshops, where I could go to Jurien Bay and, I'm sure a lot of parents would be keen for a mental health workshop for adolescents or whatever. So I again, like, got all the ideas, but I guess I probably really need to sit down with a supervisor or a coach and be like, what am I doing? Where am I going? And how do I, like, funnel it
Yeah.
down type thing? Because it's all up here. So
Mhm.
yeah, nothing set in stone yet. But yeah, I would like to sort of do a few different things in the
Cool.
future. And because I guess that way too, you can reach more people in less of a time. Like, obviously, one-on-one is great and you have such an impact, but you're only impacting and educating or whatever so many people at a time. So yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, being able to make, yeah, more of a difference, but yeah, but it is a different thing to think of and all of the I don't know, like the nuts and bolts of making if it's like a program or a worksheet and then like
Mm,
to market things, it's a whole different thing. How have you found that side, the business side of your practice?
in terms of marketing.
Mm,
Yeah. So when I first started, so there was no sort of other psychologists within, I don't know, 100K radius sort of all around. So I literally just started. I went to Jurien Bay. They've got a GP clinic there. So I just met with them and, put it on all the different, like, country Facebook groups or community chats. But it was really, yeah, it was just a waiting game initially. And then once the GP started sending referrals through, it sort of became pretty steady from there. And then just a lot of word of mouth. So it's kind of the way I've been doing things is kind of, I guess, the more old school way, whereas maybe now it's social media and all that sort of thing. Mine's definitely people want to know a bit more about you, especially in the town that I'm in. I didn't get anyone local for a while. And I was like, oh, maybe I knew that there was a need, but I thought, is it reluctance? And I think they want to know who you are and that you're a local. So I feel like that, they see me around at the club or at the shops. And last year I did like a mental health event. So I feel like I sort of proved myself or something. So yeah, I haven't, like, I've got, Instagram pages and that. I really don't do a lot on them because I find the work sort of is coming just locally anyway.
yes, but yeah, when you were talking about like, yeah, the local and having to prove yourself or that kind of thing, I was just, yeah, I I really struggled in my first because I live in a rural Queensland and yeah, the town is very much, yeah, if you're not a local, people know. And so like, who is this psychologist coming in and can we trust her?
Yeah.
Which is fair enough. And I'm the opposite. I hide away and like make my husband go to IGA and all of that. I'm like, but you're so right. And that's probably why I struggled a little bit in the first year with the business side of things and getting referrals and all of that. But
Yeah.
it's all learning.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And look, I think if I'd gotten clients straight away from my local town, I probably would have done the same. I would have been like, well, I can't go to the country club and, oh, I don't want to go there. Or I don't know, it's almost work. It's actually it was quite nice, I think, in the beginning while I was feeling maybe not as confident, because I think you worry clients are going to run up to you in the street and be like, I want to tell you my problem. So I think it was really nice initially being like, cool, if I don't have anyone local, like I just get free reign of the town then. So, and then now I think because I've got that confidence and you just may, and like the clients that I do have, I just have that conversation with them and they're all really good. Like they're like, yeah, of course, I understand, in here it's therapy, out there, I just Anna at the club. So yeah, I feel probably lucky in that sense it did work that way because otherwise 100% would have probably been like, well, I can't go anywhere now because they'll see me having a glass of wine at the club. And it's like, maybe that's why they liked me because they were like, oh yeah, she has a few on a Saturday night. She seems all right.
Yeah, that's such a good point actually. I haven't thought about that because I really struggled in terms of being so isolated, but I can't go out because I'm a psychologist and what are they gonna think of me and all of that. But you're so right, like not having any clients. If I didn't have anyone local, then like I probably would have, been more felt I was able to go out and be a human and
Yeah.
do human
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah. And I guess that's
interesting.
where it gets really hard being rural.
It is. Interesting, that's for sure. I'm trying to think, is there anything that I haven't asked you that you would love to say or anything that, like, has come up as we've been talking?
Well, I guess one of maybe your questions in there was about challenges, I guess, starting up
Yeah,
or like
that's right,
advice.
yeah.
Sorry, I'm just asking a question for
No,
you.
that's
But
alright.
it's not that it's a burning thing, but I thought it's probably,
Yeah, great.
worth sharing. I guess the challenge, whether it's a podcast or whether it's any sort of creative venture outside of the scope of, the client work, I guess the challenges that I've found is obviously time. So finding the time because I have a toddler. So, I do try to do things on when she's around and I don't get very far. But yeah, it's like having the time. Obviously now I'm doing my editing, so feeling like motivated to sit there and like listen and then go back again and listen again and, doing posts and yeah, I think like I said before that motivation sometimes can like ebb and flow, but I think it ebbs probably when I haven't done an interview for a while. So it's like, okay, throw yourself back into it. Or even doing chats like this with you, I'm now like, I'm all inspired again. So it's, just finding whatever works. And I think in terms of advice, I know for me, which it's all worked out fine, but when I get an idea, I rush. So I definitely cut corners. So I probably could have slowed down a bit more and just done a bit more research. Like it wasn't such a rush to kind of interview everyone and get those episodes out. So I just think take your time and, do things when you're ready.
That's good advice that I need to I think I need to listen to because, I'm like, get an idea, and then if it's one that I'm like, "Yes, I wanna do that," all of a sudden it's like, "Alright, so tomorrow we're setting up this, we're, like,
Yeah,
writing this," and
exactly. And it's
yeah.
like I pigeonhole myself then I'm so overwhelmed because I'm like, well, I said it's going to be done tomorrow. And I just rush and I'm all panicky. And it's like, oh my God, just slow down, girlfriend.
I feel that's yeah. Having ideas is a lovely thing, but then it's also important to, be able to also have that part of you that, like, slow and can do it on your time. But thank you for that. In terms of, the challenges, it's a good thing to know that, there are challenges, but we can overcome them, I think.
Yeah, oh, for sure. Yeah. And it's, I guess, in those moments too, when you're like, well, where am I going or what am I doing? That's just further me like, yeah, maybe it is time to do some coaching or supervision around where you do want to go or what it's all about or what the purpose is. Or it's just going back through and reading some of your feedback and being like, this is why we're doing what we're doing. Without making millions of dollars, although that would be nice. It's just about, giving a platform, sharing stories, getting my voice out there. And that's kind of what I'm doing. So
Yeah, it's beautiful to have
getting on to
that,
that.
like, and that's so great that you did take that time at the start to write out, like, your vision and your mission and, like, what you were doing so you can come back to that. I think that's so important.
Yeah.
And they always say, like,
Yeah.
start with your why or whatever like that, but
Yeah.
which is nice, but I think it needs to be deeper than that a little bit, like what,
Mm.
we've been talking about. But how can people find you?
Yep. Yeah. So, like I said, I've not got a huge Instagram presence or anything. But yeah, just on Instagram, I've got obviously my Instagram page for the podcast, Does My Psychologist Like Me? And then I've got my work Instagram. So that's Anna Oliver Psychology. And yeah, that's pretty much really it that I've got at the moment. Again, need to kind of do a really cool website at some point. But yeah, just plodding along. It's what works for now.
Yeah, that's great. Like that's it, the plotting. I like that. Maybe that'll be my like word for 2025. Plod.
Plodding along, doing things when you can.
All right, all right. Now, time for my favorite part of the interview, which is the rapid fire questions. So, super curious, Anna, tell me, what is your favorite film and also the favorite character from that film?
My favourite movie is Interstellar, and my favourite character is Cooper. So that's played by Matthew McConaughey. And it's just the best movie because it has like wormholes and 3D and it's space. And I just freaking love space. I also freaking love Bridget Jones' Diary. Bridget Jones is just an idol. Awesome. Love it.
What great films. And yeah, Interstellar, oh, incredible. And speaking of Matthew McConaughey, I listened to his biography recently called Green Lights, and it was really, really good. He reads it as well. So, of course, you can just imagine what it's like. So good. So, highly recommend that. And yeah, of course, Bridget Jones's Diary is a fab film as well. But tell me, what is a concert that you'll never forget?
A concert that I'll never forget. I went to Bruce Springsteen. What was that? Probably 5 or 6 years ago. And that was epic.
Wow. Yes, I could imagine that would be epic. Like capital letters epic. And the last question is, what's an absurd thing that you love or like a quirky thing about you?
And yeah, no idea on the absurd thing that I love. A weird thing. Have you ever had an ulcer and you put Vegemite on it? Do you know how much that burns and hurts? But I do it anyway. Like, why?
Oh my God. Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. But yeah, why? Why? We could have a whole nother discussion about that maybe. Oh, it's funny. I love it. Exactly. But I'll put like the links in the show notes and link to your podcast as well because yeah, I think we're on the same page in terms of like helping make psychology more, show the humanity and the realness behind it.
Yeah.
I love that. But thank you so much. This has been a lot of fun and time flew. So that's a good sign.
Yeah, good. Oh, thank you. I think it's awesome. It's exciting what you're doing and I'm all about making connections. So yeah, we'll have to get you on mine soon.
Oh yeah, I would love that. Definitely.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Anna.
No worries.
All right. That's the end of another episode. Thank you so much for tuning in to Healers with Hustles. If you've enjoyed today's episode, will you do me a tiny favor and subscribe to the show? Just tap the subscribe button on your favorite podcast platform and you'll be the first to know as soon as a new episode drops. Thanks so much for listening. Okay, ta-ta for now.